My sincere greetings to all my viewers and my dear students. Good morning. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this YouTube channel is especially for English classes. And in our today's session, we are going to study about a play, or we can say the remaining play of English literature. So today we are going to discuss about part third, or we can say the remaining part of the play, Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee. So in our part first and part second, we have discussed about the introduction of the writer Edward Albee, American playwright, won Pulitzer Prize for drama, Tony Award for best play, and he made examinations of the modern condition through his works. So now let's start the remaining part of Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf. In our previous parts, we have studied that there is a gin party at the home of George and Martha, and Martha invited Nick and Honey, a young couple, to join them. So now Nick and Honey, couple, a young couple, and George and Martha, a middle-aged couple. So these are two couples and 4 members. Now they are taking wines and they start to insult each other. They start to making discussion in a very funny manner, and we have seen that there was a scary scene in which Martha starts to humiliate, to insult George, and George gets angry and he appears with a gun, but there is no bullet in that gun. When he shoots, an umbrella pops out from that gun. So such like funny scenes, such like taunting comments we have seen in the play. Now Nick and George are sitting outside. There is a scene in which Nick and George, now both men, not women, are sitting outside. They talk about their wives. Nick says, Honey had a hysterical pregnancy. Hysterical pregnancy, false pregnancy. She assumes as if she is pregnant. but she is not. So Nick says, honey, Nick says to George, honey had a hysterical pregnancy. George and Nick discuss the possibility of having children and eventually argue. They start an argument and they start insulting each other. And Nick and George start to make conversation and they start insulting each other. And Nick tells George about the hysterical pregnancy of his wife Honey. Now they join the women. George suggests a new game called Get the Guest. So in the play we see that George and Martha is also making some kind of a play, and in this play they have an imagined son. So a new game called Get the Guest, and George starts to insult Honey. He mocks her about her hysterical pregnancy, yani false pregnancy. And Nick, the husband of Honey, have already told to George about this, and now George mocks Honey about her hysterical pregnancy, and means false pregnancy. Martha starts to flirt with Nick in the presence of George. Now these four members are full intoxicated and they have taken too much wine. So now they have lost their senses, and Martha starts to flirt with Nick in the presence of George. Martha attracts Nick sexually, and Martha and Nick go upstairs. So because of this, Martha and Nick go upstairs. George gets angry and throws his reading book. So George is reading a book, and when he sees that Martha and Nick go upstairs, he gets angry and he throws his book against the door. And Honey, because in that room Honey is present, so Honey comes out by wondering who knocked the door. But the book knocked the door. So in this way, Honey comes out from that room, or we can say Honey has hysterical pregnancy. She repeatedly goes to toilet or vomiting. There is an important thing in the play, that George and Martha always have a story of their imagined son and his death. So this is an important aspect in the play. George and Martha always have a story of their imagined son, a false son, and his death. Next. Now an argument reveals about Nick having sex with Martha upstairs. Now they start fighting on a very complicated issue about Nick having sex with Martha upstairs. At the end of the play, George tells about his imagined son, that their son has been killed. At the end of the play, George makes a false story in which he tells to Martha that their son has been killed, and he has got the news through telegram from a messenger of Western Union. But that was their fictional son. So there was an agreement between Martha and George that they never tell about their imagined son to others. But Martha breaks the rule, because earlier Martha tells Honey about their fictional son. So she breaks the rule. That's why George decides to kill the fictional son. Next. By listening the story of the death of the fictional son, Nick and Honey feel horror and pity, and they leave. So at the end of the play, we see that George makes an imaginary story about their imaginary son, because there was an agreement between Martha and George that they never ever tell about their imagined son to others. But Martha breaks the rule. So now George makes a story of the death of that fictional son. And by listening that horror story, Nick and Honey leave. Now Martha wants to invent a new imaginary child. Now Martha wants to invent a new imaginary child, because the imaginary child they have already created, killed by George's imagination. So now Martha wants to invent a new imaginary child, but George rejects the idea and sings. Who is afraid of Virginia Woolf? And Martha replies, I am George, I am. So in this way, this is the end of the play. So subscribe and share the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. And this is your Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee. So thank you guys.